In 1960, America told the world it had lost a weather research aircraft. A pilot had blacked out, the story went, and the aircraft had drifted off course. It was a good lie. It was detailed, it was plausible, and it was wrong. Because the Soviet Union already had the pilot alive and had said nothing. They waited until America finished telling the story. Then they produced the man in front of cameras and asked America to explain. Guess what that single afternoon cost? A summit between the two most powerful countries on Earth collapsed within days. To understand why America was flying there at all, start with what it could not see. In the 1950s, the Soviet Union was a country nobody could look inside. No commercial flights over it, no satellites yet, no open press to read. America did not know how many bombers the Soviets had or where they were. Guess what a government does when it cannot count something dangerous? It assumes the worst, and then it buys enough weapons to match the worst. Newspapers at the time were full of a bomber gap that had never actually existed. So the real problem was not military, it was that nobody could check. A country that cannot verify a number will spend enormous amounts of money on a guess. The answer was an airplane built around one idea, and the idea was altitude. Fly high enough and nothing on the ground can reach you. So they built something that barely looks like a military aircraft at all.
Enormous thin wings, almost no fuel weight, an engine that sips instead of drinks. It is closer to a glider with a camera than to a fighter. It cruised at around 70,000 feet, which is more than twice as high as an airliner. Up there, the air is so thin that the aircraft has almost no margin at all. Fly a little too fast and the wings come apart. A little too slow and it stops flying. Pilots called the gap between those two speeds the coffin corner, and they flew in it for hours, in pressure suits, because at that height, blood would boil. For 4 years, it worked exactly as intended. America could finally count. Then, on the 1st of May 1960, one of them did not come home. A Soviet missile detonated close enough to take the wings off. The pilot got out. The wreck came down mostly intact, and so did he. America had a prepared story for exactly this, and it used it. Weather research, lost pilot, off course by accident. Guess why the Soviet leader let America keep talking for 4 full days? Because he already had the pilot and the camera and most of the aircraft. He let the story get big first, and specific and official. Then he produced the evidence, and the story died in public. The president had to admit it himself, which no American president had done before. Now count the cost, because it was not the airplane. Within days, a summit between America and the Soviet Union was canceled. Years of quiet work between the two countries went with it. And the pilot spent the next 2 years in a Soviet prison. He was eventually traded for a Soviet officer held in America on a bridge in Berlin. But the deeper cost is the one worth remembering, and it is not about politics. A secret defended by a story is only as strong as the evidence nobody has. The moment somebody produces the thing itself, the story is worse than useless. It does not just fail, it proves you were lying about everything else too. So America had a choice, and the choice is the interesting part. It could build a better cover story, it could stop flying, or it could change the problem. Guess which one it picked? It decided the answer was an aircraft that could not be caught in the first place. Not higher, faster. Fast enough that a missile runs out of energy before it arrives. That aircraft became the fastest one ever built with a person inside it. It flew for more than 30 years and was never brought down by anybody.
Roughly 4,000 missiles were fired at it over its career, and not one connected, which meant America never had to explain itself again. A secret protected by words fell apart in a single afternoon. A secret protected by speed never fell apart at all. There is one more turn, and it is the reason none of this happens now. 4 months after the pilot was shot down, America put a camera in orbit instead. The film came back in a capsule, caught in mid-air by an aircraft trailing a hook. It sounds ridiculous, and it worked.
Once you can photograph a country from space, you do not need to fly over it. And nobody can shoot down something in orbit and then hold a press conference. So the problem that started all of this quietly disappeared, not because anybody won, but because the ground moved. That is how most expensive problems end, and almost nobody notices it happening. The thing that finally solved it was not a better version of the thing that failed. Guess what the same country still spends money on today for exactly this reason? Knowing what is actually there before somebody has to guess. Because the most expensive thing a country can buy is a decision made on a wrong number. And the second most expensive is finding out in public that it was wrong.